Well, there are three people who deserve the credit for tonight's successful launch of the new Democratic ticket: Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and the man who made it possible, Joe Biden. If tonight's debut of the Democratic running mates for president and vice president had, say, an executive producer, it would be the person who made this night possible, Joe Biden, who 4 years ago chose Kamala Harris as his running mate, and 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, announced he would stop running for president and designed, in the timing of his endorsement, a quick and chaos-free transition of the Biden-Harris campaign into the Harris campaign, which then triggered a rapid series of endorsements by other prominent Democrats, leaving not a single Democrat willing to launch a campaign to try to take the nomination away from Kamala Harris. Vice President Harris assembled enough delegate support to win the nomination the day after Joe Biden dropped out and endorsed her. Candidate for President Kamala Harris has had a flawless first 2 weeks of campaigning, wisely adding winning veterans of Democratic presidential campaigns to the staff of the campaign that today became the Harris-Walz campaign. President Biden, no doubt watching proudly, said this today: "The first major decision a party nominee makes is their choice for vice president. And Kamala Harris has made a great decision in choosing Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. It's time for all Democrats, and indeed all Americans committed to freedom, democracy, and American leadership in the world, to rally behind the Harris-Walz ticket. Every generation of Americans faces a moment where they are asked to defend American democracy. That moment is now." When prosecutors walk into court on the big cases, they are not alone. They always have at least one co-counsel with them at the prosecution table. Tonight, Donald Trump's chief political prosecutor, Vice President Harris, continued her prosecution of Donald Trump with her new co-counsel, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
I was a courtroom prosecutor. So in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who scammed consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, Trump's type.
Make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
When Donald Trump watched that tonight, he knew he was up against another new candidate who he could not handle. Donald Trump has already been lost trying to figure out how to campaign against Kamala Harris. And now he's even more lost trying to figure out how to campaign against Tim Walz, who in that one line told the truth about the violent crime rate under Donald Trump's presidency more clearly and more memorably than any Democrat ever has. In a similar burst of clarity, Tim Walz blasted through decades and decades of political rhetoric about abortion when he said this.
Some of us are old enough to remember when it was Republicans who were talking about freedom. It turns out now what they meant was the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and their personal choices that they make. Even if we wouldn't make the same choice for ourselves, there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. These guys are after my heart chanting, mind your own damn business. That feels good, so thank you.
Mind your own damn business. That is nothing less than the single best political message the Democrats have ever delivered about abortion and reproductive freedom. This is the first presidential election since Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices revoked a constitutional right for the first time, the right of women to control their own bodies, including the right to control their own bodies after they are raped. Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices said that 10-year-old girls raped by family members cannot be protected in any way by federal law. The Constitution does not care about them, according to Donald Trump's Supreme Court. And in the very first presidential campaign since Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices did that, Tim Walz is saying to Donald Trump and his Republican judges, mind your own damn business. And polling shows that the mind your own damn business position commands a large majority of American voters. Next year, if Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the White House, they will be legislating a bill with all of the protections for women of Roe versus Wade. And in the debates on the House floor and the Senate floor, you will hear repeatedly the Democratic position described more simply than ever in the words, mind your own damn business. We now have a presidential and vice presidential team of running mates who are the best possible spokespeople in the history of the Democratic Party for the mind your own damn business position. And we have had two vice presidents from Minnesota, both Democrats, Walter Mondale, serving with President Jimmy Carter, and Hubert Humphrey, the first vice president from Minnesota, serving with President Lyndon Johnson. It was Hubert Humphrey who, on the campaign trail, took on the nickname the Happy Warrior. Tonight, there is a new Happy Warrior from Minnesota running for vice president.
Donald Trump's not fighting for you or your family. He never sat at that kitchen table like the one I grew up at, wondering how we were going to pay the bills. He sat at his country club up in Mar-a-Lago, wondering how he can cut taxes for his rich friends. And I got to tell you, his running mate shares his dangerous and backward agenda for this country. J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there? Look. I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see. So you know what's out there, so say it with me. We aren't going back. We aren't going back. We are not going back. So we got 91 days. My God, that's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead. Over those next 91 days and every day in the White House, I'll have Vice President Harris's back. Every single day. And we'll have yours. You know how this works. We can't do it alone. We need you, each and every one of you. Go over to KamalaHarris.com, get on board, because we need you. Freedom to make our own choices. This leader, this compassionate, careful, joyous leader believes in each and every one of you. My God, you came here tonight to sit at the very top because you love this country and you're not going back. She believes in the opportunity for every single person to join the middle class. She believes in the promise of America. We just got to fight. We just got to fight. Because as soon-to-be President Harris says, when we fight, we win. Thank you, Philadelphia. Thank you, Vice President. God bless America.